So I'm ready to put the fire bricks on. The fine sand is all leveled. I just screened it all, and it's nice and soft for setting the fire bricks. This was the original plan. Of course, original plans get variations and improvisations made upon them. But I'm going to, this is the doorway, right? And I'm going to set them going this way instead of that way, so you have less ridges to push your pans through, or whatever you're putting in and out. If they're going that way, there'll be less edges than this way. Okay, so I've got 72 bricks. I just picked the first one, and I noticed a little chip on the edge there and some raised edges. So I'm going to set this one aside, see if I've got a better one right here for smooth entry of the food into the oven. This one looks pretty smooth. I bet none of them are perfect, and I'll be filling in gaps with some more of this fine sand. So I think this is a nice one, and this one's okay. I'm not going to get too picky. So I'm going to point them across from the edge of the rock here will be the beginning of the oven floor, and you lay them flat down and you drop them flush with each other, with the edges flush and straight down. Okay, and the rubber mallet is for making sure they're even, tapping them in a bit into that sand. And so I'll be using the mallet to keep them all even and level as I go across, and then we'll work from the center out to make the circle. That one with the rough edge I'll put down at the far end, the one that had the chip corner. Any other ones like that, that's where the hot coals will go, and they'll fill in gaps with ashes too as the oven is used. So yeah, I don't know if you can see with the shadow just right that these bricks have rough edges on one side that are kind of raised and relatively smooth on the other side. So I'm putting those rough edges into the sand. Wow, just like they do it on YouTube. So, no need to film all 72 bricks being laid. I just thought I'd show you the beginning of the process. And that one has raised edges on both sides. Let's see. This one's good. So once again, we drop them straight down flush. Yeah. when I get it all done, I'll do another level just to make sure, you know, they're still all level. So that's what we're going to do now, and we'll see you at the next step. So we got this far, which is pretty much my original design, and then I discovered I still have 24 fire bricks left. Something funny happened with the calculations there, so I decided to add about 4 more bricks in these, in the front areas and the back, to just give us a little more room to work with, hauling things in and out of the oven, you know, just a little more room. I don't know, I got all these bricks. I guess I could use them for another project like a wood stove. So that's what I'll do now. I'm just gonna change the pattern a little. Have to move 2 or 4 rows of bricks slightly. I think I'll move them one at a time instead of sliding them the whole row, because they are pretty particular about placing the bricks one at a time, so I probably better stick with that principle. Okay, we've got a canopy up above the area now because it's supposed to start raining a little, and I don't think fire bricks are supposed to get too wet. So we ended up using 54 bricks. I added 6 from the first try, and yet we're 10 bricks less than the original plan, and 18 bricks less when I had figured at first we'd be 8 bricks over, that we would have 8 extra. We ended up with 18 extra, which could be used in another project. So I covered it with the fine sand and filled in the cracks with the little whisk broom, this little thing here, and they're pretty stable. Nothing's gonna move or shift with that sand. And then once you get the thermal mass, the cob on the edges there, around the outside of that circle that I just made with charcoal, using a nail for the compass point and the string. You see there. Anyway, with the cob all over those parts that are sticking outside the circle, and filling in on the sides and connecting them to the rocks. Once all that's done, it's permanent and stable. So that's the step we're at now, the stage of development. And the rain's coming. So I'm gonna go eat lunch after I put a few things out of the rain. I'm gonna make the door of the oven from this tree slab, myrtle tree from Western Oregon, Oregon Coast Range. I got it when I lived in Western Oregon over 40 years ago. I had some ideas then of what I would do with it, but I never did anything with it till now. I see the reason I have been holding on to this for 41 years. Beautiful myrtle wood slab. There's still a price tag on it. It says $25. I can't remember if I bought it or traded for it. I counted 118 tree rings, so 118 years of growth on this tree, this piece of myrtle wood tree. So a beautiful piece of wood. And now I'm going to cut it into pieces and turn it into a door. Well, here we go. Okay, so today we're starting on the sand dome, and we'll get that built and then start adding the cob. So this is just the sand, and we're following that charcoal circle line in case that circle gets erased accidentally. You know, it will have a sand circle that'll be real clear. Okay, and we're doing that, and I'm going to fill in along the sides of the rocks with Cob mortar that we were making, and there's our sand, and we'll be digging up more. Yeah, we've got a little help today, little friends, and working on the cob form and with the sand.
His boots had a hole, so he had been in that puddle that entire time. His entire feet soaked on that mud, and he hadn't said anything. And I was like, oh my God, you were having so
It's hard
fun.
hard work stirring that sand and water up, but that looks like the fun way to do it. Yeah. So we had a little too much water in the sand, so I'm alleviating that problem now by letting it dry a little and pushing the sand that kind of slid down back up onto the top. So we made our sand a little too wet and it started sagging, so we stopped, and we'll let it dry a bit and firm up, and then we'll kind of reshape it and finish. Sure took a lot of sand. We've got to go out in the field and dig more. So that's where we're at now. We'll stop for today and finish that tomorrow when it firms up a bit. It's pretty cool at night here in Montana in October. I don't expect it to dry out all the way or fall down or anything. Although I will check it later tonight, and I have these towels, wet towels I could put over it to keep it moist. we'll just start from where ever it is in the morning and pile it all up and shape it up again. So what I'm doing now is making terraces where it had kind of sagged down before, and then we will build it up again and not add too much water this time. And we'll have a flat spot on top there too to set more sand.
We see fire.
That's what we're doing now. I'll go all the way around and have a couple of terraces to keep it from sliding down anymore. But it firmed up quite a bit overnight. Didn't dry out. We're in Montana in the fall, so it's not very dry. Drying kind of weather right now. Kind of cool and a little damp. So that's fairly good to have it dry slowly while we work. Okay, you can look at me this way. Okay, so I talked about this already this morning. So here's how it's working out now. It's dry enough to not sag anymore. We put these terraces in to hold it up until we're ready to round it all off. The little kids are taking a break now. They did a lot of this, and we're keeping it a little drier, and we got to get it up to about that high, and then we'll round it off. So, craziest thing, after many hours, like most of the day and all of the afternoon, we got the sand dome finished, and I was just so glad to have it done. I didn't even think about filming the sand dome before we put the newspapers all over it. But there it is. And now we'll put the first layer of cob on it, the smooth layer that is the interior wall of the oven. And wow, that was a lot of work. We had so many people helping too. There's about 6 or 7 people working on this, and it took like from 10:30 to almost 4 o'clock to make the sand dome. But we had to dig the sand up as we went, but there was always somebody working. And then I realized that the shape of the dome as it is now will not necessarily be the final shape. I determine the final shape when we put the cob on. We can alter this shape a little bit even, but it does determine the shape of the interior and the functionality of the interior, sticking with that formula that was given to us. Height of the dome, 75% of the base. And so there we are, about close to that formula. I didn't exactly stick with it. It's about a 42-inch base and a 28-inch height. It should have been 36-inch high, but that just didn't look right to me. And we decided this was good enough. This is the shape of our interior. So on to the cob. So first layer of cob is going over the newspapers. You start at the bottom and push it in and keep overlapping, and the goal is to have it about an inch thick on this first one that doesn't have straw, so it's a smooth inner surface. And then the next layer of cob will have a little bit of straw, and it'll be about 3 inches thick. And then the final one will have a good amount of straw mixed in and be another 3 or 4 inches thick. I might go for like 8 to 10 inches thick of thermal mass instead of the 6 or 7 inches that a lot of people do, because that's what holds the heat in. But anyway, we'll put this first layer all over it and let it sit up for a while, and make the more cob with a little straw in it. That's the steps we're gonna do. Okay, well, there's the 1 inch thick interior cob surface we have finished, and we'll get to the thick layers tomorrow, and we're getting close to having that part done. Then after all that, we'll do a plaster for a nice smooth outside exterior.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I brought out some toys for the kids. Oh. Well, it must have been in the barn. Might have been stuck in one of those things. Clean up anything.
So now we're putting the first thick layer on. We make little balls of clay about 3 inches wide and slap them on here, and yeah, about the size of a big potato. Slap it on there and then just mold it to about 3 inches wide, and we go all the way around and stack them up, and that's how this next layer will be made.
Another pair.
Yeah. 5:10. Okay. We're going to
clay and sand. Cob. Okay, well, we just finished the inner coating, about 3 to 5 inches thick over the like 1.5 to 2 inch first coating we did over the newspaper. So we got about a 5-inch thermal mass thing on there now, and we're going to do the final one with a lot more straw and a little wetter cob. We're about to do that. I also just went through and kind of reinforced some of the rocks that were a little loose on the top out here. I did some Cob mortar work on them, so little filler rocks and Cob mortar, just to make sure all of these were real stable before we put the final layer of cob with straw on it here. And I might as well go all the way around, huh? Yeah. And so we're going to have a little shelf here too for just needing to set things down on. It'll be wider than that when I finish it. And let's see. We've learned something, a lot of things. This is a lot harder than it looks on the YouTube. I can see why a lot of those YouTube videos have big groups of people doing this instead of just 3 or 4 of us. Also, the big lesson for doing this up in the Rocky Mountains where we live, where you get real winters. We've been real fortunate that we haven't got a frost yet, and we're, at October 19th or 20th now? Yeah. And that's unusual. I started this last week of August, right when the harvest was getting going. And I don't recommend that for you farmers that want to do something like this up in the frozen north, Rocky Mountains, and you don't want to do it during the peak of harvest season too, like we've done. And so much to do, and so this has dragged on a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm not sure if we're even going to be able to use the oven when we get it done, because next week the frost and cold is going to hit. So I've got to find out about how do you heat one of these up in the winter. How long do you have to wait for it to thoroughly dry, completely set, completely dry? Okay, so we're about to throw that last layer on with slightly wetter cob and more straw. We just used enough straw in the previous layer to give it some strength, just to add a little bit to the thermal mass without putting too much straw in, because it's an insulating material. Now we want the insulation, so we're going to throw a lot of straw into this and put it on a little wetter, and it'll come down to meet the rocks and overlap them at different places. And that's where I'm doing my artistic element here. You see, the rocks aren't a bunch of straight edges. They're meant to flow in and out of the outer layer of cob oven, adobe, whatever you want to call it. And it's going to be nice looking, and I'll clean and polish the rocks when it's all done, you know, just to get all those colors that you can't really see now because they have clay spilled on them, clay dust and all that. So anyway, that's all I need to say now. So we're starting on the final insulating layer here. It sure goes a lot quicker with a wetter cob, a lot more straw in it too, so getting an idea of how the final mass will look. It'll be bigger all the way around and a little taller. Getting there. Nice progress. Lots of straw, and the doorway opening held up just fine. Didn't sag, even though we're using a little more water this time. Well, we're doing another progress report of where we got yesterday. But first, I cleaned up a little and washed some of the cob dust off of these rocks. I just wanted to show you the beautiful colors that are here that I will bring out when I'm all done with this, so I'll wash them real good. I just got to show you this before the wipe I just did on them dries up again, and they all look dusty again, like that one, you know. But there are some really beautiful colors and patterns in these Rocky Mountain rocks. So the rest of them are still like that, all gray and dusty looking from the work we've been doing and spilling cob and sand on them and all of that. You can see a little bit of color coming through even in some of those. But part of the pleasure of this is bringing out this beauty and not covering it all up. And so here we are now, October 20th. We're almost 2 months from when I started this, as it's harvest time, and I actually have to get out there and do some of that today. Well, this exterior layer is drying, and I'm going to work on the door later in the afternoon, but we were able to just do a tentative cut in the exterior we just put the door, which is over here right now, but hasn't been finished. I don't have my handles on there yet. Beautiful myrtle wood, and put it up there and outlined it and beveled in the edges a bit. I'm going to do a final cut later that fits the door exactly. So I think, as I said before, this final outer layer of about 3 to 4 inches thick has a lot more straw in it than the previous 2 layers. The first layer having no straw, the second one a little bit of straw, and this one quite a bit for insulation so that we can touch the outside of the oven with our hands and not get burned even when it's very hot inside. That's partly what the straw insulation does, besides holding in all that heat that we want in the oven. When this is all dry, I'll pull out that measuring dowel and have a little smoke hole, little tiny smoke hole right at the top, just to see if the smoke exit at the top of the door is sufficient, and if it is, I'll plug up that little hole maybe, or just leave it. It doesn't let a lot of heat escape, a little half-inch dowel hole.